Welcome to When Pain Becomes Culture, a series that explores how trauma, emotional survival, and unhealed wounds shape Black homes, relationships, and identity. This isn't about blame, it's about awareness, healing, and breaking cycles we didn't start but keep repeating. In this episode, we're talking about gaslighting, when manipulation becomes normal, when lying feels justified, and when control gets disguised as love, protection, or keeping it real. In many Black families, gaslighting isn't seen as abuse. It's seen as discipline, authority, or just the way things are. We'll break down how gaslighting confuses reality, damages self-worth, and fractures families, and quietly becomes part of the culture. And don't worry, we're going to keep it real, relatable, and even a little funny, because sometimes you gotta laugh. So don't lose your mind. Let's get into it. Ever been blamed for something you didn't do? So long you started believing it? There's a kind of pain that doesn't leave bruises, no scars, no police reports, just confusion, doubt, and a quiet voice in your head asking, am I crazy? In a lot of Black homes, that pain has a name, but we don't call it what it is. We call it respect, we call it discipline, we call it that's just how we were raised. But today, we're calling it what it really is, gaslighting. This isn't an attack on Black people, this is a mirror. Because you can't heal what you refuse to see. Gaslighting is psychological manipulation. It's when someone lies, denies, or twists reality so they can stay in control. And you start questioning yourself instead of questioning them. It sounds like, that never happened. You're remembering it wrong. You too sensitive. You crazy. Gaslighting isn't disagreement. It's erasing someone's reality. You can have witnesses, screenshots, video footage, and still be told you imagine it. At that point, you don't need therapy, you need a historian. Gaslighting is a part of a narcissistic personality disorder, and usually people like this are criminals, dictators, cult leaders, and people like this. Mental illnesses like depression can come and go, but personality disorders like this is harder to treat and often require long-term therapy. So do know you are dealing with a narcissist. In many Black families, gaslighting is baked into the hierarchy. Children are taught, don't question adults, don't talk back, don't explain yourself. So when harm happens, denial becomes protection. Parents rewrite events, elders shut down conversations. Accountability gets labeled as disrespect. Gaslighting becomes a tool, not because people are evil, but because power was never questioned. Gaslighting didn't start in our homes, it was inherited. Generations raised under slavery, segregation, poverty, violence. Truth wasn't always safe, so lying became survival. Control became safety. Emotions became liabilities. The problem is, we kept the survival tools long after the battlefield changed. There are two layers to this. One is external racism gaslighting from society. This is when Black people experience discrimination, but are told, that wasn't racism. You're playing a race card. You're too sensitive. Stop making everything about race. That is gaslighting, because it denies lived experience. For example, you're followed around a store, you bring it up. Someone says, they follow everybody. Now you're second guessing what you clearly felt. Or at work, you're talked over in meetings. You notice a pattern, you're told you just have a victim mindset. That's psychological distortion. It teaches Black people to question their perception, their instincts, their pattern recognition. That's racial gaslighting. Two would be internal. Now this part needs balance. Sometimes racism becomes so real and constant that it becomes a shield in every disagreement. For example, two Black people have conflict. Instead of addressing behavior, someone says, you're attacking me because I'm Black, but both of you are Black. Now the real issue, accountability, disappears. Or, a Black public figure receives criticism. Instead of addressing valid points, they frame all criticism as racism. Now racism, which is real, becomes leverage. That's not the same as acknowledging racism. That's using it to avoid responsibility. Gaslighting happens when real oppression is used to shut down necessary conversation. And that creates confusion inside a community. Because real racism, like Emmett Till, is a perfect example. Which this woman did was a perfect example of gaslighting. Gaslighting destroys trust. Children stop trusting their feelings. Partners stop trusting their instincts. Families stop communicating honestly. It creates anxiety, depression, hypervigilance, emotional numbness. And worst of all, it teaches people to doubt themselves before doubting abuse. That's how cycles repeat. When gaslighting becomes normalized, it spreads beyond the home. You see it in churches, relationships, workplaces, community politics. Lies get defended, truth gets attacked, and healing gets delayed. Hard truth. A community that can't tell the truth to itself will always hurt itself. You ever notice how some people get offended not because you lie, but because you remember? That's gaslighting panic. Laughter breaks tension, but the truth still lands. Now let's talk about relationships. Not in a black woman versus black men way, but in power and in leverage way. Because gaslighting is about power. Just look at child support and alimony as leverage. In some toxic situations, not all, money becomes control. Example, a man says, "I want to see my child." The response, "You should have thought about that." Or, one partner says, "You only want custody so you don't have to pay," instead of addressing actual involvement. That's gaslighting if the intention gets rewritten. And the emotional side of looking at it, a man says, "I feel disconnected from my child." He's told, "You just don't want responsibility." Now his emotional concern is reframed as selfishness. That's manipulation of narrative. But here's balance. There are also situations where men gaslight women about finances. Men hide income. Men deny responsibility. Men accuse women of being gold diggers to avoid accountability. It's power-based. But this isn't about attacking black women or black men. It's about exposing how power gets weaponized inside broken systems that keeps your integrity intact. Have you ever had an argument and somehow by the end, you're the villain, you're the unstable one, you're the irresponsible one, you're the dramatic one? You walked in calm, you leave confused. That's not debate, that's distortion. When racism gaslights us internally and we gaslight each other internally, reality becomes unstable. And when reality feels unstable, control becomes culture. We can't heal what we keep weaponizing. And we can't demand justice outside while distorting truth inside. Oh, and another note. Remember that scene from the show Power? And Ghost told Tasha he's taking custody over the kids because she's a drug dealer? When he's a drug dealer?
I am completely legit now. You can try all you want to bring me down to your level. It ain't gonna happen. You're not gonna get in the way of my future. And for damn sure, you're not gonna get in the way of my son's future. I'm taking Tariq and Yaz with me in Albany.
You can't take my kids.
You're a drug dealer. Of course I can.
That's called gaslighting, ladies and gentlemen. Understanding gaslighting doesn't mean excusing it. Trauma explains behavior. It does not justify damage. Healing requires honesty, not denying. Black people, we have to hold accountable for our actions and words. We use gaslighting as a mask and a shield. There's a difference between accountability and attack. Accountability is not disrespect. Accountability is not betrayal. Accountability is not tearing the community down. Accountability is truth with the intention to heal. Gaslighting survives where accountability is avoided. In many black homes, accountability feels dangerous because admitting wrong feels like weakness. Weakness feels unsafe. And unsafe feels like losing power. So instead of saying, "I was wrong," we say, "You're tripping." That's where gaslighting begins. Why accountability feels like disrespect. In survival-based environments, Authority is everything. Parents had to survive. Men had to survive. Women had to survive. Elders had to survive. So correction feels like challenge. Challenge feels like disrespect. But correction isn't always rebellion. Sometimes it's growth. And if a community can't handle correction, it can't evolve. Accountability means if racism hurt us, we don't turn around and hurt each other. If poverty damaged us, we don't normalize manipulation. If trauma shaped us, we don't excuse abuse. It means saying, yes, racism is real. Yes, oppression is real. But so is the harm we cause each other. That's not hate, that's maturity. Without hate means this. If a black man avoids responsibility, call it out. If a black woman weaponizes emotions or narrative, call it out. If parents distort reality, call it out. If children manipulate guilt, call it out. Call it out without humiliation, without generalization, without demonizing. Because once it becomes black men always, black women always, you already lost the mission. The mission is healing, not winning. Here's where it gets real. Before we fix the culture, we ask, have I ever denied something I clearly did? Shifted blame because I felt embarrassed? Used my pain to avoid responsibility? Played victim when I was wrong? Gaslighting doesn't only live in them, sometimes it lives in us. That's the uncomfortable part. You ever argue with somebody and halfway through you realize you wrong? But your pride too strong to admit it. So now you doubling down. Now you're rewriting the timeline. Now you're bringing up stuff from 2012. That's not debate. That's ego fighting exposure. We laugh, but that's how cycle continues. Accountability is not an attack on black people. It's protection for black futures. We don't heal by pretending we're perfect. We heal by being honest about what hurt us and what we've done while hurting. And here's the real punch. If we can demand justice from the world, we must also demand honesty from ourselves. I'll end this. We all fall victim of gaslighting at one point of our lives. Just some are permanent and more unstable. Gaslighting taught us to survive, but it's killing our ability to connect. If telling the truth feels like betrayal, the problem isn't the truth. It's the culture protecting a lie. Healing starts when we stop asking for permission to trust ourselves. Stay tuned for my next episode where we dive in to talk about entitlement and how it affects black people.